You're helping veterans compress time.
There's thousands of existing businesses, Brian, out there right now, all across the country. Most of them are owned by baby boomers who want to retire and sell their company. They call us to get an introduction to a veteran or two. What am I passionate about? Really passionate about. Fly that veteran flag really high. Know how to operate a business and make sure you're attacking the right hill. Who did you love and who did you help along life's path? Nothing else matters.
Who is Lynn Lowder, and what inspired you to start the Veterans Business Project?
Sure. Well, first of all, Brian, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm a small town, downstate Illinois guy who my high school football coach was a Marine and always wanted to be a Marine from way back then and even before I met Coach Calvin. I basically enlisted, I was playing football out at Northern Illinois University in 1960s, well, 64 to 66, but the war was heating up and I wanted to be a Marine. I felt like I should serve and should go. All my buddies were either going, coming, or there. And in that era, you could get a deferment, Brian, if you were in college, if you can imagine that. So I played the last game of my junior year. I had made up my mind I was going to quit college and be a Marine. Football was going good. Academics, I really could have cared less. So, so I wasn't ready. Anywho, enlisted in the Marine Corps and went to San Diego, met my father figure, Gunnery Sergeant Bell, my senior DI, who saw things in me I didn't see in myself, that's for sure. You know, he changed everything in my life and encouraged me to become an officer at some point. The reason I'm going into this a little bit is because, typically the Marines draw more officers from the ranks than any other service. So I think it's a really good thing. So we were losing a lot of ground officers, lieutenants, infantry then. I kind of got to an interview, but then forgot about it. I just wanted to get over there. Went to Camp Pendleton after I graduated from boot camp, ITR, and then I was able to go to recon replacement school. I wanted to know who were these tough dudes, these recon Marines, and learned. So went through recon school at Camp Horno, and so on and so forth. On hold for a while. Ultimately ended up getting a commission, going to Vietnam, was a team leader in First Force Recon. The best and the worst year of one's life, as you can imagine. And then stayed in the Marine Corps several more years as a grunt. Ended up completing an undergrad ultimately and got a law degree before I was out of the Marine Corps. And the reason I say that is not because that means anything, only that if you would ask people from my hometown, Brian, if you would have said, hey, what's going to happen to Lynn Lowder when he grows up? And somebody would have said, oh, well, he's going to be involved with the law. And you would have said, yeah, probably Joliet Penal. And you would have been right. You would have been totally right. I was a full throttle troubled youth. But back to your question, how do we get into doing what we're doing now? So got out of the Marine Corps, did law work for lots of years, trial lawyer work, general counsel work, got into running companies, trying to fit in, Brian, trying to find happiness, trying to find a sense of what you and I knew in the Marine Corps, that camaraderie, that teamwork, that mission over self, the team over self, all that stuff that you know and I know very, very well. Veterans do, but the Marine Corps to a fairly well. And never happened. Some years ago, I had a chance to stand up a veterans program at a university in Missouri, University of Central Missouri. Went over. They just starting it from scratch, really. There was no template on how to do this. So got in there, met everybody, did the Marine Corps thing, tried to meet everybody that was there, all the veterans that were involved. And really what it came down to was making sure that our students there, veterans, got academic credit for any college work or, service schools that had academic credit. That was number one. Number two, getting mental wellness services over there to the school. We were about an hour 15 east of Kansas City. Did that. We had a lot of veterans there that had seen a lot of combat, including Army National Guard infantry. So did that, and then lastly, getting them jobs. Found out that job fairs are one thing, but getting employers that are really looking for talent is sometimes a bit of a challenge. So I scooped up a bunch of resumes regularly. I'd go to Kansas City and I'd knock on doors, Brian, and try and get these resumes in front of CEOs, people that were leading companies, HR people, and do that. In the process of all that, I'm dusting off my Vietnam brain and I'm watching them do what we always do and what I certainly did when I came back from combat. Trying to figure out, number one, who am I now? As you well know, you go overseas and go into combat and so forth, the person that goes over is not the person that comes back. Doesn't mean that we're broken. Doesn't mean we're damaged goods. It means we've done what the country wanted us to do as Marines. And you see things that affect you in certain ways. You do a lot of growing up, and as a friend of mine, a Marine buddy said, youth and laughter, that goes really quickly. That's gone. So we do a lot of growing up, you know. All I can say is I came back from Vietnam, honestly, Brian, I think I was 22. I felt like I had an 82-year-old head. You know what I mean? Just tired, trying to get stuff figured out. So I'm watching these veterans there going through school. Many of them, I think, were just wanting to kind of sit and do something that they could do, but grab a beer, cool your jets, and try and get your feet on the ground, which is exactly what we did and exactly what I think veterans have been doing since so long as we've been sending people to combat. Trying to figure out, number one, who am I now? Number two, what's my lane in life? And, buddy, that is not easy, as you well know. What are you going to do after you've been in the Corps, if you've been downrange and all that? What's going to match that? Nothing, really. The camaraderie, like I said, the teamwork. We're Marines. We fight as a team. We're not individuals. I miss, you know what? I miss it to this day. There's a lot of stuff about the service I don't necessarily miss. One thing I miss above all else, far and away, is dealing with Marines. They are creative. They are hardworking. They're tough as nails. The stuff they come up with is just incredibly innovative, and sometimes lots of humor involved too. I miss that a lot. As I'm there and working with veterans, I started getting a steady stream of people coming into my office, Brian, and the questions always revolved around, how do I get in business for myself? I was intrigued by that. When I left there, about a year and 9 months later, I did a deep dive into the GI Bill. Number one, I found out that it only got out of committee by one solitary vote. It was almost killed in committee. There were people that felt like it was too generous a benefit, that it might create somehow maybe some backlash in the public eye. You know, I don't know what they were thinking. It eventually got through. And when it got through, and this is the important part perhaps of all of this, Brian, in the 9 years following World War II, this blew me away. 49.7% of our veterans ended up being small business owners. Unbelievable. Almost half. And from this little town where I'm from, Sullivan, Illinois, great little Midwestern town downstate, around our town square there were many businesses that were started by veterans coming home from World War II. And it ran the gamut. Furniture stores, clothing stores, restaurants, you name it. And, you know, small towns, everybody knows everybody. And the veterans are lifted up. People support their business. They were doing really great. And back to you guys, after 9/11, less than 5%, because they cannot get a loan. I have found this incredibly, it was shocking to me to begin with. When you think about, we'll lend a college-bound teenager tens of thousands of dollars, literally, with no credit score or collateral required. But how about a machine gunner in the 5th Marines? Sorry, Marine. Get over there in the line with the SBA deal, where you're going to need to have 690 minimum credit score, dollars worth of collateral already for every 4 you're going to borrow. I don't know about anybody else listening in on this, but I know when I was that age, for sure I didn't have anything like that. So we haven't found a way to do this. And I thought, this is just wrong, really wrong. So I formed a nonprofit to go after the financing part, Brian, and that's where we started out. We're still working on the GI Bill. My opinion is veterans should be able to access that GI Bill, not just for college, not just for trades, but if they want to start a business or buy an existing one, they should be able to use that benefit. It's their benefit. They've richly earned it. So I've been out at D.C. knocking on doors. Boy, have I gone to school. You would think that everybody on Capitol Hill would want veterans to take advantage of this hard-earned, it's styled a benefit. It's not a benefit. It's what they have earned. But the answer is, of course, not. A lot of people have their interest in where that GI Bill money goes. So, anyway, that notwithstanding, we started working on federal programs, state guaranteed loan programs, started getting a lot of calls from baby boomers, and I mean a lot. There's thousands of existing businesses, Brian, out there right now, all across the country. Most of them are owned by baby boomers who want to retire and sell their company. And so they call us, and they want to get hooked up. And they call us a lot of times because their kids, their own children, don't want the business. That's always interesting to me. They call us to get an introduction to a veteran or two. So we talked about this, but the co-founder of Veteran Business Project is a guy named Dale Eisenberg, a really nice fella who I met some years ago, and his dad was a World War II pilot in the Army Air Corps. So we kicked this around, and we said, let's give this a shot. So the point here would be that we do an initial due diligence on the company. This is should be an existing viable company. And then if that's the case, we would make an introduction to a veteran or two. Would tell the veteran, get in there, negotiate a little salary for yourself, and work in that business for a while to see if it suits you. We would tell the owner, please be candid, be forthright with this veteran. If it's not for him or her, tell them. We don't want them to be in a bad situation. This process, we loosely termed it then apprenticeship to ownership program. Now, we've done so many of these, Brian, we call it the V-Harmony program. There's a E-Harmony if you want to get a date, right? So V-Harmony, well, it means veterans and mill spouses that want to be in business for themselves with existing businesses looking to sell. I think we got like 750 people in our pipeline. We've been doing this now for several years.
Wow.
We assign and this is another part. You being Marines, when we were getting trained for combat, I wanted to be trained by people who had been downrange, done it, not talking theory. So in our case, we assign an individual business coach or mentor, if you will, to each individual that comes through the program, from due diligence all the way through to buy sell. Now, some come in and they're tire kicking. Some come in, we've had people come in and they know exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it. Then typically in those situations, we're dealing with financing challenges and everything in between. There's about 9 defined steps. There's no mystery to this. The steps that you take to buy a business. The difference for us is a absolute seasoned business entrepreneur who's done precisely what the veteran is trying to do, that can coach them through this entire process. A sounding board, a confidant, and that relationship, that mentor-veteran relationship, can go on as long as they want it to go on, for years afterwards if they want. Why not? So that's what we do, Brian. That's what got us into this. And to my knowledge, our knowledge, I think we're the only entity doing this in the country. I'm sure it happens here and there, but not as a program on a national level, which shocks me to this day. DOD.
You're the only one I know of.
Well, yeah, and DOD, and we get it. I mean, if veterans or mill spouses want to start a business, that's fine. You can do it. The failure rate's about 85%. But as we got into this, I'm thinking, yeah, why not? I mean, if you want to be in business for yourself and you can figure out 3 things: what are your values, what are your passions, what are you good at, and if you can pick a business that incorporates all that, and the business would be one that the public would buy, buy your products or your services. If you can do that, more on that in a little bit. Now, you got something to, in other words, as Marines, make sure we're attacking the right hill. Some people come out and they think, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. Well, in some cases, you're still decompressing. You know what I mean? It takes a little while to get through that. We've got a step that helps them get clarity. But having done that, the idea here then, Brian, would be, I'm a Vietnam guy. We do not want to see you guys, your generation. I have found that the relationship between Vietnam veterans and you guys, the post 9/11, is solid, absolutely solid. And we don't want you guys to get some of the reception we got. So I wish I would have stumbled onto this earlier in my life. Then again, my wife, who married me as a Lance Corporal on my way to Vietnam, she tells me all the time, yeah, sure. So if you would have done that, what would you be doing now? And the answer is probably not this. I know I'm in the fourth quarter of life, Brian. I don't know if I'm at the 2-minute drill, but and I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. But we got a lot of work to do, and I want you guys to find yourself, to find your passion. The World War II guys set the template. You all can be in business for yourself. You can be successful, I think, virtually at any level you want to be. You certainly have the grit, the discipline, the smarts, the team play, all that our veterans have. And we tell them, you know what, get out there and build your business. And then while you're at it, hire veterans when and where you can and mentor them and encourage them. I'll stop on this last point. At this point in my life, I'm a slow learner, Brian, but I've learned a couple things. Number one, nobody gets us, understands us like we do each other. And I mean nobody. Number two, nobody cares for us at all, for the most part, like we care for each other. That's just the way it is. This is the club. This is my tribe, your tribe. This is where I belong. Wouldn't want to be in any other tribe. So every group of veterans that have gone downrange and come back, Brian, have faced the same thing. Who am I now? What am I going to do? What's my lane in life going to be? I like to say we planned it, but we did not. We just got pulled into this because of the calls and the demand we were getting. And now that we're here, we got a lot of work to do. And I really appreciate your patience letting me yak up here and talk. But I just,
No worry. This is what this is about. This is about you.
I don't know if I would have done it, Brian, but there was nobody around. I wish, again, my wife would say this, one of the things that, yeah. But if there would have been a guy like you, somebody that would have come over and sat down with me and said, well, not exactly this, but this is how I would interpret it. Hey, Lynn, you're not as stupid as you think you are. Maybe you could have your own business. Maybe instead of trying to fit in, corporate setting, the cultures in these companies, the corporations, they should be joining our culture. You know what I mean? We got nothing to be. We got a lot to be proud about. But that fitting in part, and I have never fully fit in to any job I have ever had after I left the Marine Corps. I have never been this happy, never been this much at peace. Why is that? Because I'm working with you, with guys and gals in my tribe. We get each other. I want you guys to be successful. I want you to be people of, as much consequence as you want to be. Next time we go to war, Brian, and they'll find another one. Those people in Capitol Hill, they're not sending their kids in. They're at Harvard and Yale. They got important stuff to do. They're going to send you and me. The next time they start doing that again, and they will, I'm hoping guys like you pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, wait a minute. Why do we want to kill this guy and break his stuff? There's a lot of people in the world we could kill them and break their stuff. Why this guy? Number two, where are your kids, Senator? Are they in on this? Yeah. If they want to get in, hey, we got room. Give them a rifle, put them in the 5th Marine, shove them right up front. Let's go do it. Well, that's the other motivation that we have in this. So I need to shut up, and thanks for your patience. Listen to me yak on here.
No worries. I mean, you touched on a few things there that were I think, really important. You know, when I look at the military, right, they put a lot of money into us when we go in to service, the training, the resources, all those things that get us up to speed to where we need to be to go to war. But when we leave the military, it's a 30-minute TAPS class and they give you, you know, barely enough information to get out there and survive. You know, unless you've done it yourself or you've done the due diligence yourself to get out there and find what you want to do. I mean, they've made a lot of progress even since I've gotten out, right? They have Skill Bridge and they have, you know, some other resources like Higher Military that they actually are putting resources out there to help the veterans.
Right.
But something you said earlier about clarity and purpose, I think that's the starting point where all of us need to start when we are transitioning out of the military and find out what that clarity and purpose is. In your eyes, you know, how does a veteran find their clarity and purpose when they're transitioning out?
So
Yeah.
we are creating videos right now, Brian, for every one of these steps in vHarmony. On our website, you're going to see a guy named Joe Plensler. Joe's a really good guy. I met him when I was a speaker at DI school many years ago. I was a speaker there 4 times a year for 11 years. I would come out there and I would tell these drill instructors what they were going to be doing as opposed to what they thought they were going to be doing. They were going to certainly turn recruits into Marines, but if they did it right, they were going to be an example of how a man ought to conduct their lives for the rest of their entire lives. I needed that as a young kid. That's why I was a runaway 3 times when I was a kid. So I needed that male role model. In comes Gunnery Sergeant Bell. Boy, did my life change, you know. I met Joe in that context. He was a director. He was really, really good. Drill instructors, they're something else. It was great being around them. And while I was there, when I first started there in the late 90s, there was no war. Then we go to 9/11, then, you know, things changed. I would go in there and tell them, look, if you do this right, you're going to be an example for these young recruits ever after. You will teach them essential military subjects. You'll teach them how to march, teach them how to drill. You'll teach them how to take them out to Edson Range, learn how to shoot a rifle and all that. You'll do that. But they're watching you. You know, and even when you're at the position of attention, I don't know about you, I think I know the answer. I used to tell these drill instructors or make the comment, I'd say, okay, guys, position of attention, where are our eyes supposed to be? Where are our eyes supposed to be? And we all know, straight ahead. So I said, okay, well, did you guys ever eyeball the area when you were a recruit? And I could see the smiles and everything. And I say, because I did. I sure did. I was trying to dial these DIs in. Were these guys for real? You know, were they really believing what they were saying and all the rest of that? You can't BS Marines. We figured it out. And I would tell these drill instructor students the important thing is they need to believe you with all their heart and soul, because we're not playing games here. We're sending people into combat. And so you, drill instructors, need to be giving everything you've got so they learn these lessons as best they possibly can when they get out into the fleet. If we don't do our job here, there's going to be bad results out there. And then I would end up saying, and so thank God I'm here. I'd catch them at about 2/3 of the way through. I'd say, thank God I'm here, because if you're coasting to any degree at all, and you think it's cool because you're going to get that Smoky Bear, you know, drill instructor cover, and incentive pay, and probably, you know, you're going to get promoted down the road because of all that. Thank God I showed up, because you need to leave. Quit. Go out the door. Go back to your unit. Stakes are too high. It was in that context that I met Joe. Just a real exceptional guy. He is now, with Veteran Business Project, our director of media communications. He was public affairs officer for 3 of our commandants in a row before he retired, and actually was PAO for General Mattis too. He's got some great Mattis stories. Joe, a while back, when he retired, and this is about finding our zero. That's where I'm going with this. How do we find out who we are and what we want to do? He and his wife Kate took a course at Georgetown University. It was a very rigorous course. They were going through this course with a number of people that had been CEOs, leaders in companies, a broad background. But these are people that were moving on in life. They were now in a position where they could do what they really, really wanted to do. They were really fired up about? What were they passionate about, and so forth. In that process, they took an assessment, and the assessment they took was they had all these cards with different names on them and everything, words. You were trying to figure out, what are my values in life? What do I want to be, want to do? What matters to me? Then secondly, what am I passionate about, really passionate about? You try and boil all these down, my values, to one principal value that really matters in your life. Is fitness the number one thing in my life? No, not now, not at my age. I want to stay reasonably fit, but I'm not looking to bust 100% on the PFT anymore. Those kinds of things. What's of absolute value to me? What's of no value to me? And what's in the middle? And try and sort those values down. There's a thing called the Schwartz Values Wheel. You can look it up on the computer, and you're going to see the sort of the template of definition of these things, the words. The second thing is, what am I really passionate about? Is it a green planet? Is it, military service? Is it politics? Whatever it happens to be. Number 3, what is my superpower? We've all got one. What am I really, really good at? You sort those down, and then you think, okay, well, let's see if I can find a business, Brian, where I can incorporate all those things. If we can do that, then you're going to be looking at something that really means something to you. You're really passionate about it. Think of all the people, this is me now, going back in time, when I had jobs that I really didn't care for that much, but like most of us, married, kids, got to pay the bills, so you do what you got to do. But did those jobs really inspire me, strum my heartstrings, as they say? And the answer is no, not at all. But what if we could find something that really did that, meant top drawer value to us, really we were passionate about? To do that, we were doing something that really came right on in with our superpower, with what we're really good at. The last thing they wanted to identify is, by the way, whatever that business is the public going to pay for it? If it's a product or something, will they pay for that? Is it something they need? Either your product or your service, will they pay for it? If they don't pay for it, it's not a business. It may be something else. This is the course that Joe took. We've incorporated this now into our V-Harmony system, Brian. And we recommend people take that assessment right up front, early on. So if we're going to consider a business, let's make sure it's the one that we ought to be going after. Let's make sure that we're, in Marine terms, attacking the right hill, not the wrong one. And I think this is a critical component part of what we're looking to do. I don't have the link to that site off the top of my head right here, but I'll call you back on it. It's free to take this assessment.
Okay.
If you want, and by the way, we don't get a penny for anything out of this. We're a nonprofit, but this is the service that Joe used. And there's a deeper dive if you want to do it. I think it's like $30. I went ahead and did that too, but I thought it was very insightful for me. And the truth is, I'm doing what I love to do right now.
Yeah, it'll at least get them pointed in, the right direction, and, figure out something that they want to do.
Amen.
So you don't always have businesses coming to you. So if they find their passion or interest in something, you actually go out there and help them find a business that, they might be able to purchase.
What we don't do is we're not babying people, if you will. Probably not the right word, Brian. We coach people through on the steps that they've got to do. Now, there are places that you can go to find. There are companies that do come to us. We've got some in our stable, if you will, and more all the time. But what we do is we tell veterans also, and a lot of people are geographically bounded. They want to be in this town or that town. You can find a VetBizTV is one. There are other sites like that. Chamber of Commerce in your local area, finding out what companies are for sale, or Rotary. Small business associations in your state, your region, they'll have an idea. And let me talk about small towns for a minute, because I am a small town hick. My great-grandmother's name was Tennessee Jordan, if that gives you any idea. There's a lot of veterans now moving to small towns. And I mean, moving in the first instance or returning, like if I would have returned to my hometown. I think the dust has maybe cleared a little bit. Maybe I can get away with it now. These small towns, number one, they know who you are if you're a veteran. And small towns, I think, still really, really revere their veterans. Number two, there are a lot of businesses in small towns that need to be bought and sold. So the match could be right there in that small town. You remember, we're all familiar with what happened to small town economies when big box retailers like Walmart or Costco entered in, and people would go there. It's hard for them to compete, hard for a small town business to compete on a price basis with some of these bigger retailers. But I'll tell you right now, small town mayors have picked up on that. A lot of people in small towns have too. Stay local. Support your local businesses for all the reasons that we know. There is a movement now to do that. Small town mayors are really picking up on that. They're looking for ways to regenerate their economies, and who better to do it than veterans? So, like in my hometown, I think we identified eight or 10 businesses that were ripe for being purchased and sold. And I think a lot of people would be surprised at how well these small businesses can do in a small town. Better than I think most people would believe at first glance.
Can you share? Can you share like a success story of a veteran going through your program from when they came and found you all the way until they acquired a company?
Sure, I'll tell you straight out. This and our website. People can go to our website. There's some stories there. But let me talk about one here, near and dear to my heart. Like I say, downstate Illinois. I get a call from Dale Eisenberg, and he says, "Hey, do you know where Villa Grove, Illinois is?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. We played them in high school. Played them in football and basketball, and we used to spank them pretty good." So I said, "Yeah, I know those guys." He said, "Just got a call from some veterans, and they're thinking about establishing a business there, a coffee shop in Villa Grove, Illinois, town of about 2,000, I think, give or take, with a lot of closed storefronts up and down the main drag there." So he said, "Where are you right now?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Sullivan, Illinois. I'm down here, my hometown, talking to some people." He said, He said, "How far is Villa Grove?" I said, I don't know, 20 miles maybe." He said, "Could you go over there and meet with these people?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. When do you want me to go?" He said, "How about tomorrow?" I said, "No problem." Drove up there. I meet 3 reserve Seabees. They are living in Villa Grove. And they told me that in order to get a good cup of coffee, you had to drive like 20 miles to Champaign, Illinois to get a daggone cup of coffee. There was a business in town that had shut down. It served coffee and ice cream, soft ice cream, things like that. That's what they had done. But there was also a good amount of seating in there. So I went and I met with them, and we talked about what they were trying to do. They needed help getting clarity on operations, and also it turned out that they ended up establishing a breakfast business called the Corner Beehive. You can look them up. They've actually been on TV a few times. Korner, Corner Beehive in Villa Grove, Illinois. We have Jerry and Beth Jenks in there now. And they've been there from the get-go. Mary Hart also was involved, and they were part of a drilling reserve unit, Seabees, and they had been in that area for some time. So they were hometown folks, if you will, have served a number of years, and they were over in the sandbox too. So we go and we start working with them. They stood that restaurant up, the Corner Beehive, and I'll come straight at it too. Their goal in that little town was to make $200,000, I believe, in total sales their first year in a town of 2,000 with a coffee shop and breakfast place, okay? I think within 14 months, their gross sales were about $500,000. You wouldn't believe that. But I'll tell you,
Wow.
People were coming from all over. Small towns coming there. And as Marines, we pride ourselves in being real tight, supportive community. I got to say, when they opened that restaurant up, I was there for the grand opening. They had Seabees in from all across this country. Very impressive. When I was in the Corps, as far as the Navy goes, we always looked out for two aspects and MOS's, people in the Navy, corpsmen, of course, and the Seabees or the bees, because they always had good chow
Yep.
halls, and then they can make something out of nothing. Well, at any rate, that's the corner beehive, and it's been on television. It's been on national TV, actually. There are many more stories I could go into, but that's a classic one, and it's a small town story. And that got us thinking about this, what we call Operation Hometown, which are really looking to get cranking now going forward. So there are others, but that's a classic example. The community just rallied to them. And if our veterans are listening in or thinking about this, I tell them, thankfully, this isn't Vietnam. Fly that veteran flag high. I started a restaurant 9 months ago. I don't know if I ever told you this, Brian. You can look it up. It's called Rosie's Home Cookin'. It could have been cooking, but it's cooking because it's small town, downstate diner. Looks like an old 50s diner. The food and service really are solid. And we have Norman Rockwell paintings up in there. We honor Rosie the Riveter, first responders. You'll see we have a missing man table there, flag, family, and so forth. People come in there and they feel like they've stepped back in time, which is a wonderful compliment. We have tapped into something powerful. There are a lot of, nothing's perfect, but America's a good country. It's a great country, done a lot of good things with a
Absolutely.
lot of good people. So I wanted to honor these people. And my wife, Sandy, who became an art teacher, she said, well, then hang Norman Rockwell paintings up there. And she selected them and hung them up there. Believe it or not, we've been on national TV twice. Fox News came out and covered us, and then they've covered us regionally about 3 times. We've had other media come in here. And I'll tell you what it is, Brian. It's that veteran connection. That is what draws the attention. So don't be bashful at all. In fact, go the other direction. Fly that veteran flag really high. It's a strong pull. It's a great connector to the community. And we have people that come in to Rosie's Home Cooking, and they say, we want to support a veteran business. And in the sign out front, Rosie's Home Cooking, veteran owned and operated, which it darn sure is. And I'll tell you, that's the other part. My tribe, right? I am a small town hick. I always will be. Given other circumstances, I could say I probably should have been slinging hash in my hometown since about 1964. But I have not been this happy, this much peace in my heart, a very long time, Brian. Maybe even before I went in the Marine Corps. It's finding my lane in life, buddy. What makes me happy? What do I care about? I care about people. I darn sure care about veterans. So I want to make sure they're fed well, taken care of. I want to show them that if a guy like me can put up a business, believe me, anybody can. There's opportunity out there. And one last point, it's never too late. Now, I'm 77 years of age. Left the Corps at age 38. If I wasn't so stupid, I would have started this then. But I didn't. I went and worked in other people's businesses and did all that stuff, building other people's business. Now, like I say, I'm a slow learner. But when I started getting a grasp for equity ownership, owning it for yourself and your family, building it, it's a powerful, powerful thing. Rowing your own rowboat. Once I got a drift for that, and I talk to older veterans a lot too. You get older in life, and nobody can kick my butt as good as I can kick my own butt. Why did I not do this then? What was I thinking about? How stupid can I be? On and on and on it goes like that. And I run into other veterans that have some of those thoughts. And I tell them now, I say, look, we're vertical, we're above ground. You got your health, you're motivated, you got things you can do. We're going to be dead a long time. So if you want to do something, we can help you get there. Jump in and do it. It is never too late. And it is never too late. And here you and I are talking. I don't know who's going to hear this. I'm sure a lot of people will. But I say that to older veterans, but it applies to everybody. It's never too late, Brian. Once you find out what you love doing, and we're Marines, so we're used to dealing with people, are we not? I mean, that's what we do. I tell people,
Absolutely.
veterans, people talk about human relationships. What is that? I tell people, veterans are very relational. That's the river we swim in. We got to know each other. We take an interest in each other as people, as brother Marines and sister Marines, I should say, and that's the basis upon which we work. Well, if you think about business out here, computers notwithstanding, Brian, iPhones and all that, I find that people still long for human connection. In our restaurant, people come in there and I greet them at the door. I want to find out where they're from, tell them what we're all about, tell them we're a small town diner, tell them we want to give them good food and service. They'll be the judge. But I circle around there to make sure that happens. Want to tell them about what these paintings we have around here. I want it to be like a hometown diner, and it is. You know, they want to sit there and drink coffee till closing, go right on ahead. Nobody's going to hustle them out. People respond to that, and they darn sure respond to veterans. They really, so many people. We get them from all over, Brian. So that's kind of what got me into this deal.
Well, it's important. It's important what you just said there. I mean, this is something that I recommend to any veteran that comes to me with advice on military transition. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. Get out there, identify veterans in your hometown or your area or close to you, and make friends with them.
Yep.
You know, get out there and network with these guys. I mean, I'm in sales, so it's like a natural thing for us. Just in the veteran community alone, I mean, you look at some of my friends that I have up here in this area, and I mean, it's helped with mental health. Like, you can talk to these guys about anything. You know, it's like you said earlier, Marines, you know, we just have that bond.
Right.
But, you know, it's expanded when you get out. Like, there's veterans across the board in every branch that they're looking for help and you're looking for help. There's no better way to connect and talk things out and then find resources to, you know, other resources to bring into the group. So I think that's extremely important.
Amen.
You know, what you just said there.
Yeah. Well said. And, you know, we have these expectations too, as you know, in the service. You know, there's things, just imagine, I mean, we start talking to brother, sister veterans. We cut through so much right away. We have common understanding about things and experiences. So you get right to the hearts of matters, I think, a lot faster. So I agree with you 100%. Well said.
One thing that I want to talk about too is SkillBridge. Are veterans able to leverage that, like an apprenticeship when I'm not sure how familiar you are with SkillBridge, but basically if they're 6 to 12 months out, they can come intern with you or a company that maybe you match them with or something.
Right.
Do they qualify for that through you guys?
You know what, Brian? We're working on that right now. In fact, literally right now. We want this restaurant here to be a location people can come for training. Dog Tag Bakery, you've heard of them. They are a place I believe that is SkillBridge qualified. So we want to get all over that. We met with Terrell Odom, really nice guy, veteran, corpsman, who is the head veteran liaison person, runs the veteran program at the University of Chicago. He is all over the place. They do SkillBridge there. So we're going to be working with Terrell to see if we can get Rosie's in that SkillBridge program. It sounds like a really good program. So that we're right in the front end of that. I don't have a direct answer for you now, but I'll get one. That's what we want to do. We want to be one of those places that veterans could come to.
No, I think that would be awesome, especially if they're looking to buy a company eventually. They can go work, like you said earlier, go work for that company,
Yep.
but they're still collecting a paycheck from the military.
Yep.
And if at the end of that relationship, if they see it as a good fit, you know, he buys the company or she buys the company or whatever. So transition, you know, let's talk about that for a minute, because that's an overwhelming thing for most veterans.
Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest issues that, you know, I've seen over the course of the last, you know, 20 years, you know, finding clarity, finding your passion, doing all those things. If I'm a veteran and I don't want to own a business, or if I do want to own a business, what advice would you have for that veteran who is getting out in 6 to 12 months? What should they be thinking about?
I would start down the road with two things, really. If you're considering a business, and by the way, we have participated in the TAP program up at Great Lakes. Now, from where I sit, the TAP to me is sort of a review of different assets or programs that are out there. That's what I've seen. It's not like you really dig in on any of these things. It's sort of like a survey of different services, companies, whatever. Whereas we are already thinking about, I go there, you know, I'm done in 10 minutes. I go in and say, listen up, you know, here's what we're doing. 50% of the veterans did it in World War II. You can too. You should think about this. don't be like me. Don't wake up to this, much later in life. Think about it now. And I come right to the point with them. There really, from where I sit, isn't enough emphasis early on, I think, in entrepreneurship, Brian. I think it's a missing component that's, I think, very, very important, especially for you guys. We've never churned and burned people like we have the 9/11 folks. I mean, we've never stretched people physically and mentally like your crew has been stretched. So I think it's very important for folks to figure out that there's another way than the fitting in part, so to speak, interviews and all that kind of stuff. They want to do that, that's fine. Oh, you know what? And let me say that while I'm at it. If anybody out there is thinking about a job, do you know Mike Rowe, that Dirty Jobs guy on TV?
Oh yeah.
I love that guy. I'll tell you, he's on the money. In an age and era where I think everybody knows the value of education, the usual thing. So with that as a disclaimer, I think we've really oversold the value of an undergraduate general education degree. We got 5 million trade jobs open. People have got to have these skills. People need those skills. So if veterans are looking for a job, Brian, I say go, by all means, go and talk to the trades, operating engineers and so forth. A lot of veterans there. You're going to go into an environment where you don't have to explain who you are, where you've been. They're going to know it and appreciate it. So you're going to have brothers and sisters in there already, a sense of family, good pay, medical program, retirement program. It's a great way of life. That's on the employment side. Now, the other side, if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, there are ways to do that. There are two things you need to have, I think, right up front, and this is what we tell people that come to Veteran Business Project. To be match ready, you need to understand how to operate a business. And there's two things. Know how to operate a business and make sure you're attacking the right hill, which is that program we just talked about. If they haven't done those, in our view, they're really not ready yet. They need to get that done. So while you're in this interim period, knock out these business courses that you can take. You can take business courses in a junior college or a college if you want to do that. There are a number of Boots to Business curriculums that are out there. I'm trying to think, Syracuse, of course, serves as CEO, which comes in what they call the Rosie Network. That's Stephanie Brown. Her husband was a 34-year SEAL. Great guy. There are books you can read, textbooks you can read, the 10-day MBA, MBA for Dummies. That's a good one for me to read. But the point of it is, you want to make sure you have an understanding of how to run a business. As we know, it's not for the faint-of-hearted. But look, we're Marines or we're veterans. There's a lot tougher things we have gone through than that. But so learn the pragmatics of operating a business. Number two, let's learn about who we are now. And what hill we think we ought to be attacking. Now we're ready to go. So use this time right now. I would investigate if thinking about a job, by all means start talking to the trades. Operating engineers, electrical engineers, plumbing. They're all good trades, good paying trades. And you know what? It's an honest day's work, Brian. It's an honest day's work. And then if they're thinking about entrepreneurship, they can come to our website if they'd like, look around there. We'd be glad to talk to them. Knock out those two things. Get an understanding for business, how to operate it, and then get an understanding of who you are now by that self-assessment course that we talked about. I'll send you the link to that. I think it's a good exercise. There was just no talking about this, Brian, when my generation came out of the service. We were just kind of reacting. The country was very negative on veterans anyway. You guys, I think, you've been really, really smart about understanding what's real and what's not, what works and what doesn't. And you guys, I think, are a very tight group. And I just wanted to tell people that there is so much opportunity now there, out in the civilian world, and it's there. It is absolutely there. If people want to grab a business and work hard, I honestly believe now, that Dana White guy, that UFC guy? I follow UFC from the get-go. Those guys are gladiators. These are, I think, some of the best, toughest athletes going. When he came out with a video, you can find it recently, and basically he said, if you're a savage now, in other words, if you're a, door kicking, take no holes, take no prisoners kind of a personality, he said, you can be whatever you want to in this country. He said, we got a bunch of blank out there, I had to say this in a politically correct way. You got a bunch of wussies out there. And the competition, I'm telling you, people don't want to work like they used to. You guys blow the doors off of it. That's what I know that to be the case. So I think it's a very, very good time right now. And every time there's a catastrophe or confusion, we see a lot what's going on in the country right now. People are kind of confused about a lot of things. There's opportunity in that. There's a reason why General Mattis's call sign was chaos. When everything has happened with Marines, chaos is going on, right? That's when we kick butt and take names. We know how to work in that environment, lock and load, hold them and squeeze them, and roll right through it. It's that way, I believe, right now, Brian, in the business ownership sector, small business ownership. You want to do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. And Lynn, I love what you're doing because, you're helping veterans compress time, right? There's nothing wrong with a startup business, but you're helping alleviate a lot of the challenges that they're going to face on that, startup phase.
Yep.
So for you to provide the mentorship and help them find the business that they're passionate about and doing those things, I think is so crucial. And I'm going to put all your links in our show notes today.
Sure.
But one more question before we land the plane here. Before you leave this earth, what do you want to be remembered by? What kind of legacy do you want to leave and impact do you want to leave on this earth and the community?
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about that point. Like I tell you, I was a runaway when I was a kid, lost. And it's not an uncommon thing. You probably knew guys like me when you went through boot camp, guys that had their head up their hind end. They're not steady. They haven't had that solid family background, the right way to grow up. And they come in the Marine Corps, and we do a really good job of getting their feet on the ground, giving them self-discipline, and all the rest of that. So what I'm going to tell you is what I told the drill instructor school students, and I've had occasion to speak to different Marine units over the years and some college football teams around the country. I played football out at Northern. I think I told you that years ago, back in the Stone Age. It wasn't exactly leather helmets, but not far from. When I talk to these young folks, young men in particular, I say, no accident here, just like right here today. There's no accident. I used to say, Brian, years ago, when I talked to younger people, I would say, precious little happens by accident. I believe to the core of my being, there's a reason why you and I got together. There's a reason why this is going on. Nothing by accident, not one thing. So I tell them, the students, I say, okay, listen, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my background and what's going on and so forth. And if you want to know why you were born, if you want to know why you're on this earth, if you want to know why you're living your life right now, I can tell you exactly precisely what that is. Think of all the time that you can cut out, you can get right to the point, get on track, no zigzagging, go straight to the mark. If you guys want to know that, I'm here to tell you that. Now, somebody remind me at the end of our talk here if I don't remember to do that. And if you want to know, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But if anybody wants to know, remind me. So I'll do my talk, and then I'll thank everybody. I'll start to walk off. Every single time, one of these students or one of these Marines or whatever will say, Sir, tell us why we're here. Tell us why we were born. And I say, okay, here it is. At the end of our days, we've all seen a funeral procession. We all have. And I asked them, I said, did you ever see a U-Haul behind a hearse? Important lesson. Nothing wrong with nice things, Brian. There's nothing wrong with any of that or making money. Nothing wrong at all. But none of that stuff goes with us. That's not the point of our life. None of that stuff is all temp loan. We don't own it. We're blessed to have it, but it's not ours. All that stuff that we work so hard for, whether it's jewelry or cars or whatever, we check off the net. We know that's going somewhere else. Ain't going to go in that hole. That's an important lesson. I tell them, really, the reason why we're on this earth is to do principally two things: to love one another and to help each other on this pathway to life. At the end of your days, two things will have mattered for each one of us. Only two things. Who did you love and who did you help along life's path? Nothing else matters. That's our legacy. We leave a legacy in the people that we love and help along life's path. We are brothers and sisters. The man upstairs was completely right. And if we could ever get that part straight, we do this in the Marine Corps. Everybody talks about diversity, right? We've been diverse in the Marine Corps for a long, long time. And, you know, you go through boot camp. You did it. I did it. You know, you meet different people from backgrounds. This guy's Mexican. This guy's a white guy, whatever, you know. And the Marine Corps makes us all miserable, all together. And the only way we can get through that misery is we got to do it together. We got to pull in and do our part, and we do. And at the end of the time, as you know these dudes, you know, they're good guys. They'll get along great. And also, on that point, with all our diversity, with all of our background and the way we train people, you and I know, if the Marine Corps lines up to go to combat against a unit across the way there, those guys over there, they're going to have a bad, long day ahead of them. And we make it happen. So that's the lesson I've learned. That's all that matters, Brian. Who do we love and who do we help along life's path? We're here to help one another, invest our time and our effort in building other people. Exactly what you did in the Marine Corps, exactly what the Marine Corps wanted us to do, is to look out for our troops, care for them, watch over them. If you're a leader, you know, that's what we're supposed to do. We all have that opportunity, and that's what matters. You know, that's the only thing that matters in my experience. I'm 77 years old right now. I tell people I'm not, you know, look, I know I'm in the fourth quarter of life, Brian. I don't know if I'm down to the 2-minute drill. Who knows? But I tell my children, nothing left unsaid. Nothing. If you love somebody, if they've been good to you and kind to you, tell them. Tell them now. Why do we hold back? Why do we not say it? If somebody has been a great friend, tell them. You can't over-encourage people. You can't do that. So be kind and tell people. People that do good to you, tell them. Tell them now while there's life breath in you. I'm not planning on checking out, buddy. I hope we get to talk over the years now, many years yet to go. But I want to thank you for what you're doing, your effort here. It means a lot.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this one, check out these videos right over here. And we'll see you in the next video.